What if I told you that in the year 2139 humanity discovered we are not the first intelligent species on Earth? That beneath the lunar surface lies proof that our entire understanding of human evolution is fundamentally wrong. This is the story of the most classified discovery in human history, and why 3 world governments are willing to go to war to control it. The year is 2139, and the moon has become humanity's newest mining frontier. Helium-3 extraction operations dot the lunar surface, feeding Earth's endless appetite for clean energy. Commander Zara Voss leads Mining Expedition 77 Alpha, what should have been a routine 3-month operation in Mare Tranquillitatis, the Sea of Tranquility. Her team consists of 5 specialists who've worked together for years. Dmitry Kozlov, a geologist whose deep core scanners have mapped more lunar terrain than any human alive. Keiko Tanaka, the youngest engineer in the Lunar Mining Corps, but with an intuitive understanding of alien geology that borders on supernatural. Hassan al-Rashid, the team's survival specialist whose job is keeping everyone breathing in humanity's most hostile workplace. And Dr. Vera Okafor, the mission archaeologist, a position that exists mostly for legal compliance since nothing has ever lived on the moon. On Sol 847 of their mission, everything changes. Dimitri's deep core scanner picks up an anomaly 30 meters below the surface. Not a mineral vein, not a lava tube, but something that makes his equipment malfunction in ways he's never seen. The readings suggest a void, but with walls too smooth and regular to be natural formation. When Zara makes the decision to investigate, none of them realize they're about to stumble into the most significant archaeological discovery in human history. The excavation takes 18 hours of careful drilling through lunar bedrock that seems harder than it should be, almost as if it was deliberately reinforced. What they uncover defies every assumption about the moon's geological history. A sealed chamber perfectly preserved in the lunar vacuum, carved from solid rock with precision that makes human engineering look primitive. The entrance is a perfect hexagon, sealed with what appears to be crystallized metal that shimmer with an otherworldly quality. When they breach the seal, the chamber's atmosphere rushes out in a cloud of gases that haven't touched vacuum in eons. Hassan's scanners go wild. The air is breathable, Earth-normal oxygen and nitrogen, but with trace elements that don't exist in nature. As their lights penetrate the darkness, they see something that stops them cold. The chamber spans nearly 100 meters in diameter, its walls covered in flowing scripts that seem to writhe and shift in their peripheral vision. But it's not the writing that captures their attention. It's the technology. Crystalline structures rise from the floor like frozen music, complex geometric patterns that pulse with faint rhythmic light. Each crystal formation connects to others through conduits of the same strange material, creating a network that spans the entire chamber. Keiko approaches the nearest crystal cluster, her engineering mind trying to make sense of what she's seeing. These aren't just decorative, they're functional, part of some vast computational system that makes Earth's most advanced quantum computers look like pocket calculators. The power source is unclear, but after 100,000 years in the vacuum of space, these systems are still drawing energy from somewhere. That's when Vera makes a discovery that turns archaeological protocol upside down. The symbols covering the walls aren't random decoration. They're star charts, mathematical equations, and what appears to be a historical record. But these star charts don't show the galaxy as it exists now. They show stellar positions from eons ago, when the Milky Way was younger and arranged differently. The mathematical equations use symbols no human has ever seen, describing physical laws that extend far beyond our current understanding of physics. And the historical record? It tells the story of a species that traveled between worlds when humanity's ancestors were still learning to make fire. "How old is this chamber?" Zara asks, though she's not sure she wants to hear the answer. Vera's hands shake as she runs her scanner over the crystalline walls. The degradation patterns in the crystal matrix, Commander, this chamber is over 100,000 years old, maybe significantly more. The implication hits them like a physical blow. 100,000 years ago, humanity was scattered tribes of hunter-gatherers struggling to survive an ice age. The most advanced human technology was stone tools and controlled fire. Yet something was here, creating marvels of engineering, while our ancestors were still learning the basics of survival. Hassan's communication equipment suddenly springs to life with emergency signals from Earth. Someone back home knows they've found something, and that someone has mobilized resources with frightening speed. Military vessels are already launching from Earth orbit, their destinations classified, but their intent clear: secure whatever the mining team has discovered. That's when Dmitri makes the discovery that changes everything. At the far end of the chamber, in an alcove that seems designed for reverence, they find what can only be described as a stasis pod. But calling it a pod doesn't do justice to its elegance. It's more like a crystalline cocoon, translucent enough to reveal its contents, but with surfaces that bend light in ways that make human eyes water. Inside lies a figure that sends ice through their veins. Humanoid, definitely, but with proportions that are subtly wrong. Taller than any human, with limbs that are too long, a cranium that's too large, and features that suggest intelligence beyond human comprehension. The skin is pale, almost translucent, with a quality that seems to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. Keiko's scanners detect minimal energy signatures flowing through the pod's crystalline structure. After 100,000 years, whatever technology sustains this being is still functioning, still drawing power from the chamber's mysterious energy source. Most disturbing of all, her bioscanners detect life signs. Faint, but unmistakable. The figure inside isn't sleeping. "We need to contact Earth immediately," Vera says, her archaeological training completely inadequate for this moment. "This is first contact. This changes everything we know about human evolution, about our place in the universe." But Zara understands something the others don't yet grasp. No, we document everything first. Once Earth's governments get involved, this becomes a political asset instead of a scientific discovery. We have maybe hours before they arrive, and I want to understand what we're dealing with. Even as she speaks, the chamber around them begins to change. The crystalline structures pulse brighter, systems that have slumbered for millennia responding to the presence of human consciousness. The stasis pod's energy readings spike, and deep within its translucent depths, the ancient figure begins to stir. Hassan monitors the communication feeds with growing alarm. The approaching spacecraft aren't just from one nation. He's detecting American, Russian, Chinese, and European military signatures, all converging on the moon simultaneously. Someone leaked the discovery, and now the world's superpowers are racing to claim it. "How long until they arrive?" Zara asks. 18 hours for the fastest ships. But, Commander, there's something else. I'm detecting energy buildups in the chamber's crystal network. Whatever we did by entering this place, we've triggered something. The stasis pod's glow intensifies with each passing hour. Ancient systems that have waited since before the rise of human civilization are finally awakening. But awakening to what? And more importantly, what will happen when the being inside opens its eyes for the first time in 100,000 years? As they work frantically to document everything they can, Vera makes a breakthrough in translating the wall symbols. What she discovers makes her question everything she thought she knew about human history. According to these records, the being in the stasis pod isn't just an ancient alien visitor. The genetic analysis her scanner is running suggests something impossible. This creature's DNA shares fundamental structures with human DNA, but in configurations that suggest it's not just related to humanity, it's humanity's ancestor. But that's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth through natural selection over millions of years. The fossil record is clear, the genetic evidence undeniable. Except the evidence in this chamber suggests that human evolution wasn't entirely natural, that someone guided it, shaped it, influenced it in ways that left no trace in the archaeological record. The being in the stasis pod has features that look almost human, but perfected, refined, as if someone took the human template and improved upon it across eons of careful development. The bone structure is more elegant, the proportions more graceful, the cranium larger to accommodate what must be a significantly more advanced brain. 12 hours after their discovery, with military forces closing in from Earth, the stasis pod reaches critical energy levels. The crystalline structure begins to crack, not from damage but from design, as if it was always meant to open once certain conditions were met. A sound fills the chamber, not quite music, not quite machinery, but something that seems to resonate in their bones. The pod splits open like a flower blooming, releasing gases that carry scents of worlds they've never imagined. And the being inside opens eyes that hold the depth of starlight and the weight of eons. When it speaks, the words bypass their ears entirely, appearing directly in their minds with crystalline clarity. Zara steps forward, every instinct screaming at her to run, but duty and curiosity keeping her rooted in place. "I am Commander Zara Voss of the Earth Mining Consortium. Can you understand us?" The being rises from its resting place with fluid grace, its movements suggesting strength and intelligence beyond human comprehension. When it looks at them, they feel simultaneously like children being evaluated by an adult and specimens being studied by a scientist. "Understand? Child, your language springs from roots we planted in your ancestors' minds 50,000 years ago. Every word you speak, every concept you can grasp, grows from seeds we sowed in the fertile darkness of your developing consciousness. The chamber's technology responds to the being's awakening, crystal formations pulsing in complex patterns that make the air itself seem to sing. The star charts on the walls begin to move, showing the passage of time, the dance of galaxies across cosmic ages. You call yourselves human, a word meaning earth-born in the ancient tongue. But you are so much more than that. You are Project Genesis, the 7th iteration of our grand experiment in cultivating consciousness across the cosmos." Hassan backs toward the chamber entrance, but finds their path blocked by a field of energy that wasn't there before. They're trapped with a being that claims to have engineered their entire species. "You're saying you created us?" Dmitri asks, his geological mind struggling to process implications that dwarf planetary formation. "Created? No. Guided, shaped, refined. Your species possessed potential, raw, chaotic, but beautiful in its possibility. We simply encourage certain developments, enhanced cognitive capacity, extended lifespan, improved adaptability. Small changes across millennia, unnoticed by your kind, but cumulative in their effect." The being moves to the star charts, its presence causing them to shift and change, showing Earth as it was thousands of years ago. Small groups of early humans, but some among them are different. Taller, more graceful, with eyes that hold deeper intelligence. Your myths remember us as gods, as angels, as visitors from the sky. But we were never your rulers. We were your gardeners, and you were our most promising seedlings. Vera finds her voice, though it shakes with the weight of revealed truth. Why? What's the purpose of all this manipulation? The being's expression grows sad, weighted with knowledge that spans geological ages. Because consciousness is precious beyond measure, and the universe is vast and hostile to life, we have traveled for eons seeking species with the potential for true awareness, true creativity, true wisdom. Most fail. They destroy themselves through war, through environmental catastrophe, through the inability to transcend their primitive instincts. But a few, a precious few, learn to grow beyond their origins. The chamber fills with images of distant worlds, some vibrant with life and advanced civilizations, others dark and lifeless, monuments to species that reach too far too fast. We cultivate consciousness wherever we find it, nurture it, help it develop the wisdom necessary to join the greater community of aware beings that spans the galaxy. You were meant to be the next addition to that community. We're meant to be? Zara catches the past tense and doesn't like its implications. We were supposed to wake 50,000 years ago, when humanity reached the appropriate level of development, but something went wrong. Our stasis systems malfunctioned, our emergence was delayed, and in that time, you grew differently than we intended. The being studies them with eyes that have witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. You develop technologies without wisdom. You learn to split atoms before you learn to unite your own species. You created weapons capable of sterilizing worlds while you still fight over territorial boundaries drawn by ancient tribes. You have become something we did not intend, something dangerous not just to yourselves, but potentially to every other conscious species in the galaxy. Outside the chamber, they can hear the distant rumble of landing craft as Earth's military forces arrive. The being's attention shifts toward the sound, and its expression grows troubled. Even now, faced with contact with your creators, your first instinct is military response. You bring weapons to a reunion, threats to a homecoming. This is not the behavior of a species ready to join the galactic community. General Marcus Sterling leads the combined Earth forces that breach the chamber moments later. His weathered face shows no surprise at finding an alien being. He spent his career preparing for this moment as head of the Extraterrestrial Contact Division. What surprises him is how human the creature looks. Secure the alien entity, he orders his troops. Lethal force is authorized if it poses any threat. But before any weapon can be raised, the being simply looks at them, and every piece of military technology in the chamber stops functioning. Not destroyed, not damaged, just no longer capable of violence. Interesting, your species' response to the unknown remains unchanged after 100 millennia. Perhaps the correction protocol is indeed necessary. Sterling refuses to be intimidated. I don't care what you claim to be. You're on human territory now, and you'll submit to human authority. The being's laugh is like wind chimes in a cosmic storm. Human territory? Child, your entire species exists because we willed it into being. Your territory is a garden plot we have tended for 50,000 years. You have no authority here except what we choose to grant you. That's when Zara realizes this confrontation will determine the future of human civilization. She steps between the military forces and the being, understanding that the next few minutes will define humanity's place in the universe. This is exactly what it's talking about, she says to Sterling. Fear, violence, the immediate need to control anything we don't understand. Is this really who we want to be when we meet our creators? She turns to face the being. And you've been asleep while we grew and changed. You see only our worst impulses because those are what your monitoring systems detected. But there's so much more to us than weapons and warfare. Keiko activates her portable display, showing images transmitted from Earth. Not the conflicts that dominate news feeds, but the other side of humanity. Children from different nations learning together, scientists collaborating across political boundaries to solve global challenges, artists creating beauty that transcends cultural barriers, people risking their lives to save strangers, to protect endangered species, to preserve the environment for future generations. Every day, millions of humans choose cooperation over conflict, Hassan adds. They build instead of destroying. They sacrifice for others without being asked. Maybe we're not perfect, but we're still growing. The being studies the images with something that might be surprise. For the first time in over 100,000 years, it's seeing data that challenges its assumptions about human development. You speak of potential, it says finally. But potential unfulfilled is merely wishful thinking. How can we trust a species that cannot even unite when faced with proof of their cosmic origins? That's when something unprecedented happens. General Sterling, representing the military might of Earth's most powerful nations, makes a choice that surprises everyone, including himself. He lowers his useless weapon and signals his forces to stand down. You want to see unity? He asks gruffly. Then give us something to unite around. Humanity has always risen to meet great challenges when they're worthy of our best efforts. The other commanders exchange glances, then follow Sterling's lead. Weapons are lowered, stances relaxed, hands extended in gestures of peace rather than threat. For the first time in its immeasurably long existence, the being experiences something unexpected. Hope. Remarkable. Perhaps there is more to your species than our monitoring systems detected. The being moves to the chamber's central control system, its hands hovering over crystalline interfaces that could reshape human civilization with a thought. Very well. We will grant humanity something we have never offered before, a choice. You can continue as you are, unguided and unassisted, free to succeed or fail by your own efforts. Or you can accept our guidance, join the galactic community, but surrender the chaotic freedom that seems so precious to your species. The chamber fills with images of both possibilities. Earth as it could be with alien guidance, clean, peaceful, technologically advanced, but somehow diminished. And Earth as it might become on its own, uncertain, dangerous, but vibrantly, chaotically alive with human potential. Choose wisely, the being says, because this choice, once made, cannot be unmade. The path you select today will determine not just your species' future, but its fundamental nature. As the impossible decision hangs in the air, Vera makes one final translation of the chamber's wall symbols. What she discovers sends chills through everyone present. The symbols here, they're not just historical records. They're a test. This entire scenario, our discovery of the chamber, even the being's awakening, it's all been designed to measure humanity's readiness for contact. The being's expression might be approval. Consciousness cannot be forced to grow. It must choose growth, choose wisdom, choose to transcend its limitations. Today in this chamber, humanity chooses its own future. Zara looks around at her team, at the military forces, at representatives of everything humanity can be at its best and worst. The weight of speaking for an entire species settles on her shoulders. We choose to remain free, she says finally, to make our own mistakes and learn from them, to grow at our own pace, in our own way. We're not ready for guidance. We're ready for responsibility. The being studies her for a long moment, eons of wisdom evaluating humanity's choice. Then you will have it. But know this, with freedom comes accountability. We will be watching. If humanity proves itself worthy of the cosmos, if you learn to balance power with wisdom, aggression with compassion, then perhaps one day you will join us among the stars as equals rather than students. The chamber begins to change around them, the crystalline technology powering down, the stasis systems preparing for another long sleep. But if you prove yourselves a threat to the greater galactic community, if your chaotic nature endangers the consciousness we have spent eons cultivating across countless worlds, then we will do what we must to protect the greater good. As the being returns to its crystalline cocoon, it offers one final thought. Your 100-year test begins now. Use the time wisely, because when we wake again, we will judge not your intentions, but your actions, not your potential, but your achievements. The stasis pod seals itself. The chamber's lights dim, and humanity is left alone with the greatest challenge in its history. They have been given the freedom to determine their own fate, but with that freedom comes the terrible responsibility of proving they deserve it. As the combined Earth forces prepare to leave the lunar chamber, carrying with them the most significant secret in human history, one question echoes in all their minds. In 100 years, when their cosmic creators wake again to judge humanity's progress, will they find a species worthy of the stars, or one that chose extinction over evolution? The test has begun. The clock is ticking. And for the first time in 100,000 years, humanity's future is entirely in its own hands. The question isn't whether this story is real. The question is if it were real, if we were being tested right now by forces beyond our understanding, if our every choice was being weighed by beings who seeded consciousness across the cosmos, would we pass? What kind of species are we becoming? What legacy are we writing in the stars? Because somewhere, in chambers hidden across our solar system, ancient watchers may already be taking notes, and the grade we receive might determine whether humanity has a future among the stars, or no future at all. The next 100 years will tell the story. The only question is, what story will we choose to write?